to interpret it. So that undermining effect is potentially very real.
3 points I'd like to raise as per his comments. First of all, if you are of the opinion that no commissioner can be TNT's savior, why did you take the job in the first place? Why did you accept being active? That's the first point.
And perhaps he should have spoken a bit more about what the commissioner can do and in what ways he's necessary. Because
we're assuming
yes,
that he is aware of that.
Based on his reporting, he was focused on the country has to fix itself, and there's some truth with that, with breakdowns in society compounding the crime problem. But the valve, the safety net of crime fighting is not really helping.
Let me finish my 2 other points. The second point is, he has raised a valuable point, and I can see that it is very much true. I do not think it is the only factor, but I am of the opinion, and I am very strong in this mindset, that parenting in Trinidad and Tobago, and parenting doesn't just have to be within the household. Any individual can be a role model. And I think we're lacking role models, we're lacking parenting, and we are not guiding our children as we should. In fact, what we're doing now is that we're raising an umbrella to the extent that because we are living in fear, we're putting an umbrella over our children, we're sheltering them and letting them to a certain extent be in fear as well. I know that the situation out there is terrible and you need to protect your loved ones, but the parenting and the role model, that does not exist. That is something that is very much rare now. On what grounds do I have to make my argument? Simply by observing how we operate as a society, simply by our reactions to certain things, our language and approach, and I will walk the streets of Trinidad and Tobago as I have done, and I will witness how some parents are with their children, how they've acted and how they treat them. And those are little things that make up a bigger picture. And my final point is, I think, and I could be wrong, as I've mentioned before, criminals have become so brazen. And in last week, I give credit to the TGPS where they have reacted and they have actually eradicated some criminals, or in some instances, taken them up the streets by whatever means.
Well, it's not without some controversy, but we can get into that later.
There's always going to be controversy.
Yeah.
Listen, there is always going to be controversy with a police arrest. Always going to be controversy. Let's just get that out of the window right now. It doesn't matter.
Well,
right? But
not always. Sometimes the parents actually agreed or understood the situation.
That has come from parents. That has not come from the other individuals who are filming the action taking place or commenting following this. My third and final point is, I think with criminals becoming so brazen and acting and everything being caught on camera now, the TTPS needs to react. There was a shooting in the Tunapuna market that took place before Christmas. Everything was caught on camera. What more evidence do you need than that? I don't understand this thing about you need evidence when the evidence is there. If you go on social media on a daily basis, you see a lot of these things circulating on social media, and you rarely, I'm not saying that it's all the time, but you rarely see the police reacting to it. The flip side of it, crime in Trinidad and Tobago could be reduced by simply arresting and charging, by prosecuting, and I don't think the evidence will be hard to find. All those within the protective services, such as the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, such as the Army, the Coast Guard, who are involved in illegal activity. I think you're going to reduce criminal activity and the numbers of incidents taking place dramatically. But more so, somebody raised this issue a couple weeks ago on the program. Those shipments of drugs and guns that are often found on the port, where are we with that investigation? The acting ASP saying, well, it will lead to another thing, and so investigations could go on and on. I am curious to know, are there businessmen out there who are utilizing their import licenses as just a means for allowing illegal goods, such as drugs, guns, and ammunition, to enter Trinidad and Tobago? I'm not making a statement, I'm asking a question. And the reason why I'm asking a question is because
I remember cocaine and fruit juice. I'm just saying.
Yes, and the reason why I'm asking this question is because if you make a statement, there might be those out there that are quick to point at you and raise red flags. So, again, let me repeat myself. I'm curious to know if there are businessmen out there using their import licenses as means for importing illegal goods, such as drugs, guns, and ammunition. Because if you pay off the workers on the port,
Yep.
who are very dissatisfied
Yep.
with the facilities available to them,
Yep.
with their salary, or whatever it may be, then they're going to accept that and be like, you go ahead, I don't have to do my job.
There's also the chance that if you kind of get caught by the wrong people skating the rules, they might also say, hey, you could skate the rules to bring in your products, which might not be illegal products. You could skate the rules to bring that in. You could skate the rules for me. Don't worry what I bring in. You don't have to worry that. But you skate the rules. So you be my front man to bring in my stuff too. You don't have to worry what it is. You just have to do what I tell you to do. But with regards to your 2 points, first of all, parenting does not exist. I think to some extent that is true. Kids are spending a lot of time on mobile devices. Now, it would be hypocritical of me to say that's a bad thing because I spent a lot of time either, watching a lot of TV when I was younger, playing video games, or reading books, or playing with toys, or whatever, right? I was very much introverted and happy to be just kind of like on my own. Similar to how...
You see kids, if you play with toys and stay on your laptop too much, this is how you'll end up.
Similar to how kids now, they just go on their devices by themselves in the house, right? So I can't say that it's wrong for it to happen, but I could see where, look, TV did influence me. It just kind of worked out with the combination of other influences from teachers and mentors and parents and older siblings. But the more that we leave kids to their devices, and things are more opened up. TV was a bit more controlled and constrained back then. Now kids are on YouTube. They're free to select what they want to watch. I'm not saying it should be taken away, but parents do need to understand. You're just leaving your kids at the mercy of whatever they decide to watch. And especially if you yourself are not taking an active role to counteract any negative influences. You can't take away their device to prevent it. That is a uphill losing battle. What you have to do is not be lazy and leave it to some stranger on YouTube to do 99% of your parenting.
Sean, if I may, there may be a difference between your time and the
yeah,
current
there is.
And that major difference is, and I don't know what was your programming of choice, growing up. But many times, as you said, the programming that was available was limited. It was controlled to a certain extent.
But in some ways, it actually was much more intellectually open and engaging.
Precisely. And that's the point I was about to
make.
make.
Even entertainment stuff with regards to the messaging was a lot more mature and developed than some of the stuff that we have now.
Which ties back into a completely different topic, but it's worth mentioning, which is the state and quality of reporting back then compared to now.
Well, I mean, I wasn't even going to news. I was just going... Yeah,
I'm talking about generally, back then. Because what I used to watch a lot growing up as a kid, up until my time in high school, I was actually, my parents were rather strict. My parents were very supportive, and I must admit that I was very fortunate growing up. But at the same time, they were very strict. They instilled a lot of principles, they instilled discipline. I actually was not allowed to watch any television during the week. I was not allowed to.
Oh, boy.
I was only allowed to watch the news, right? And it's not that they were trying to, in any way stifle me. What they would do, it used to be like a bit of a reward system. Keaton, if you come home and you do your homework on time and you complete this, okay, we'll allow you to watch this program because then we know you like that program. But if not, you're only allowed to really watch the news. I was allowed to watch television Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But, even then, again, not stifling. But what I used to do a lot as well is because I didn't care for the programming. I used to watch a lot of documentaries, right, which to me were rather interesting. And part of the reason for that is because local television stations at that time, even now, showed a lot of documentaries in between local programming. So that was one of the reasons why. So gradually as I grew up and whatnot, my parents kind of started laying off a bit, and that's the thing. It's not a matter of you wanting to stifle your child or their development. But if I'm constantly going and watching, you know, certain cartoons that are now, and they've even been scientific approaches, watching just 15 minutes of this particular program that involves under the sea with a sponge and a starfish.
Yeah.
It actually says it reduces your child's brain capacity by so much.
Yeah, I do find that modern entertainment is a bit more brain numbing, but I think the real thing is, I get it, both parents have to work, etc., how much time do you have? It's a lot of work to keep a modern household running. No, you know, most people I know don't have a maid and a driver and all of these things, right? I've heard of those things in years gone by, but that's not happening, at least not in my household, not in my family's household. But for parents to just leave their kids, because the problem is there's so much more available, but it's uncontrolled. And controlling it is not so much the answer. I think the key is to properly teach your child so that they themselves will monitor themselves, will understand and okay, what it is I'm watching, why this is bad, why this is wrong, why I maybe should just not watch it at all, or even if I do decide to watch it, what are the parts that I should not be influenced by? You know, understand the principles of it as opposed to, well, it's bad, you can't watch it. And the problem is at some point they will be free from the shackles of parenting once they reach 18, 19, 20, once they get more involved in the world and they're exposed to these things. And if they're not prepared to use their own judgments, then they're going to end up in the wrong crowd. That situation with the KFC bandits there, it's one of the implications or possibilities of why it happened, because the sister is very adamant her brother's not a criminal, but it seems as though the young man might have fallen into the wrong crowd and got influenced by the wrong crowd. And if he was not prepared to say no, and I get it, it's not easy in that situation to say no to your peers like that, but therein lies the harsh realities of life. Sometimes it comes down to something as simple as that. With your third point, quick, because we do want to mention another interesting development that might have come out of the three spoiled ballots, maybe not, of the Electoral College. You mentioned corrupt law enforcement officials, and I agree with you. I think the problem, though, is there's both corrupt law enforcement officials with regards to they might be engaged in criminal activity, they might accept bribes, they might be involved in criminal activity directly, and then there is the white-collar corruption, the officers, the service members who are just there to collect a check. So they're not so much the criminal, hard crime corruption, they're doing some of the same things, some of the same wrong things you see in other public sector areas. And I don't know if you have enough political will in the organizations now to kind of push past the people who are not really there to do anything to protect or serve, because they will to some extent be in the way. People who want to have their freedoms, they will look down upon any measure to try to deal with a situation. They will maybe not support it, maybe directly sabotage it. I'll always go back to the example, Keaton, where some government ministry tried to put fingerprint scanners to get proper clock-in times, because people would just sign in for their friends, or you take their friend's card and punch it into the clock. So they got a fingerprint scanner. So what happened? Well, the workers scratched up the scanner, right? Why it was not, if the story is true, I don't necessarily know why they couldn't track down who damaged the scanner, but...
May I just...
But my point is, you will always have that element as well to deal with as well. So then now the question is, how many cops do we have and regiment members and Coast Guard members in the service who reliably could not only maintain our overall criminal justice system, but then be relied upon to effectively and faithfully deal with their less than committed brethren.
Bringing it back to the point that the former acting Commissioner of Police, Stephen Williams, made about no Commissioner of Police can be Trinidad and Tobago's savior. Bringing it back to that, my final point, my concluding point, will be put in the form of a question. And it ties back to something that you have suggested. Who is going to police the police?
Yeah, basically. PC, not the PC.
Offering a bribe and accepting a bribe in Trinidad and Tobago is illegal. Who am I, or who do I expect to charge those and prosecute those who are responsible for actually ensuring that bribery and acts of bribery do not occur, when they are the ones themselves who are part of such transactions. In other words, if members of the protective services are accepting bribes when they are the ones who should actually be ensuring that such activity does not take place, then where are we going as a nation, and how do we resolve this issue?
And generally, when your system is weak, it makes your officers more susceptible to bribes for a number of reasons. Those that want the bribes, well, it's more available to them. Those that don't want the bribes but are being forced by all sorts of other factors to accept the bribes, well, when your system is weak, those factors come into play more heavily, whether it is that the paycheck just is not enough, whether it is that the job is just too demanding, whether it is that because there's way too much corruption now, the peers around them in the immediate vicinity saying, hey, you ought to be down with us, so we need to trust you on certain things, so you need to do this, so we have some data on you, etc., etc. But I think the key thing is, hey, if we have crime, who is going to police our national security agencies? I think, and I've said this before, and it's been alluded to before in various ways, some sort of international collaboration. Because one of the things with regards to bribery and smuggling, if some customs agent or police officers accepting bribes are smuggling in, why don't we have a sting operation? But it can't be a local police officer, right, undercover. We might need to bring in an international police agency or foreign police agency to act as the undercover, so that then...
Police to police.
The key is, though, we still have to identify officers in TNT, right, who we could trust to do that function.
All right, as we...
To not fall for the corruption.
Just before we go to the break, I'll just, quickly mention that though I have been critical, and I still am very much adamant in my point, that whilst I am not aware of the exact criteria for individuals, civilians, becoming police officers here in TNT, I think we should be stricter, because the quality of the individuals are not what I think or where they should be. With all that being said, though, it doesn't matter of the level of education or intellect with respect to integrity here in Trinidad and Tobago, because if they are, it has been suggested, I don't know, but if there are indeed high-ranking officials, such as those in government or other positions of authority, that are supposed to have every single degree behind their name, are supposed to be this intellect, have a PhD or whatever it may be, maybe this lawyer, whatever. If those individuals themselves have absolutely no integrity, and they themselves are a part of activity that is not favorable with the law, then quite frankly, it goes to show that character, education, intellect, that really does not necessarily equate to integrity. It's an all-encompassing, all-around situation, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a break here on Talking Points, and when we return, we get into something that my co-host mentioned, because it ties back into the situation with the United National Congress, and possibly why the People's National Movement remain a strong party, because there simply is no strong opposition at this time. We'll be right back after this.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Site, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andre.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, we did mention that there's something that may or may not have come out of the Electoral College vote, or at least an aspect of that vote for the new president to be incoming of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. That, of course, is the fact that not all of the opposition members in the Electoral College had a proper ballot, if to put it one way. 3 of their ballots were spoiled ballots. To what degree was it intentional? To what degree was it just a mistake or an oversight or laziness? I mean, we don't necessarily know what the motivations or the intention behind these spoiled ballots were. It could have been nothing. It could have been very deliberate. However, now there is talk within the opposition party that they want to include more of the long-standing members of the parked up, as one of the phrases reported, members who have not been active in the party, to help reform an executive to strengthen the opposition party so that it could better contest the next general elections. And I do find it interesting, Keaton, because it was 3 out of 22. To me, statistically, that is not relevant to say, oh, this is a challenge. So I do wonder if the timing was deliberate, or I do wonder if perhaps this is just the end point or the current point after a series of failures or lack of any results, or perhaps situations where the opposition didn't necessarily look as though it was being effective, including with regards to this issue here with the selection of a new president for TNT. And it didn't necessarily have to be this issue per se. It's just, it was only a matter of time before somebody said, okay, enough is enough. You know, Albert Einstein said insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We need to change if we want the result to change, because we lost the last 2 general elections and we can't keep going how we're going.
I think, I don't want to get too much into the conversation of the president, but I also think that...
Yeah, I don't think that doesn't necessarily have to be...
I think whilst you raise that, let me quickly mention the opposition has 19 members of parliament and 6 opposition senators. In other words,
sorry,
19 elected representatives. No, but let's do the math. 22 votes for Raja Khan.
Yes.
And 3 were spoiled ballots. Now, 19 and 6 is 25. 22 and 3 is 25.
That makes sense.
However, though the math may work out that way, it would be wrong of us to suggest that those 3 spoiled ballots came from the opposition. It will be wrong, because we don't know that for sure, do we?
Oh,
do we know that for sure?
I see what you mean.
There may be those who act on the opposition who voted for Christine Kanglu.
Right.
There may be those who spoiled the ballots.
I mean,
or it could be even members of the sitting administration.
I mean, generally speaking, I think what your point is valid, and it's a very real possibility. I don't think it's likely.
No,
I think it's a very real possibility,
and
it should be considered.
And the reason why I suggest that is because it is secret ballot. We will never know.
Yeah.
You know, we will never ever know. So I'm just putting that out there for us to consider. But you're right, highly unlikely. But
the key is though that situation, as minor as I was prepared to say, I didn't think it was a big deal at the time, as much as the reporting tried to make it seem like a bigger deal. This is now the follow-up, and I do wonder to what extent is this an indirect indictment on the leadership of the current political leader of the UNC. Now, it doesn't necessarily, I think, say that. It doesn't necessarily say that, but as to say, I don't think they mention Kamala by name and the way and her performance directly. But the implications, to some extent, of when you're talking about changing the executive.
What is interesting to me is that there are a couple of things to point out. First of all, I think Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, with absolute respect to her, has served her time, and she's now.
How old is she, though? I mean,
I'm not entirely sure, but
we speak about the Prime Minister's age getting up there. We look at Joe Biden being probably too old for office.
I'm not even going to
By the time the next general election comes around, and then she has to go through a whole term,
if
perhaps
if
it's
Kamala
just practical.
Prasad-Bissessar is there, regardless of her age, at this point, I think regardless
I mean,
of age,
if she reaches 90 and she still wants to run.
Sean, let's not be disrespectful. We're being a bit disrespectful. Let's not get into that
I'm
conversation.
just being, because we speak about those things with regards to the Prime Minister.
I know that we have raised the Prime Minister's age before, and we've raised it with respect to his health. We have also raised Kamala Prasad-Bissessar's age before. You are absolutely right. So it's not that I'm saying that we're being unfair, but I can simply flip that around and say, let's take age out of the equation right now, because the Prime Minister, though he may have some years under his belt, he's still very much strong. And he still, though his health is of a concern, we know much. The Prime Minister still, as I've always said, could stand up on a platform and constantly go. And I'm not seeing that with the opposition leader. And this is what I'm saying. For the moment, I'm taking age out of it. And I don't want to be disrespectful to say if she's still there when she's 90 and whatnot. The thing is, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, regardless of her age, has lost that sense of politics, has lost every strong character that she had when she was actually running for Prime Minister back in 2010. It's no longer there. That spark is no longer there. And I mean this, as I said, I didn't want to be disrespectful, but I'm thinking of another term. She's more or less a bit washed out at this point. And it's ironic that I said let's not be disrespectful, but I can't. I know
you're using terms way harsher than what I would say.
I can't think of another term, but in other words, I'm suggesting that she has actually served her time. And though she will not ride out into the sunset simply because her reputation over the last 7 years has declined, so it's not riding out into the sunset. It's better to do that now. I think what is going to be interesting is that I don't know how many more indicators we need. I don't know if she's looking at local government elections later this year, but then the former Prime Minister and the current opposition leader needs to understand that it's not a matter of people will be voting for Kamala. People will be voting, if anything, to remove PNM representation. Now, the thing is...
And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the same thing for the general.
Exactly. Now, the United National Congress is the furthest thing from a united party. In fact, the PNM actually is, as much as we have our disagreements with them and governance many a times, the PNM seem a lot more stronger. Now, internally, they may have their rifts, and they do exist. You know, and they may have their kinks inside the party,
their differences.
But they are much more of a united front, which makes them strong. And I always say that if the opposition party looks weak, regardless of the state of the government, it will always work out in their favor. However, here's where I disagree with this entire situation. I am of the opinion that you need to remove many individuals on the opposition bench. I'm not going to call names, but I think you have to remove many. Not all.
Safe to say mostly the older members who've been there for a long time and who are currently the decision makers now.
And some of those who actually voted in 2020 in the 2020 election.
Some of the new ones as well?
Yes, there are some of the new ones as well, right, that you need to remove.
So how much would be left then if we remove, just give us a ballpark figure.
This is the thing. Can't think at the top of my head, but I know there are at least 3 or 4 members of the current parliament, which I think could remain there, and I think have a lot more to serve. Some of them actually sit not as a member of parliament in the sense that they're elected representative, but a member of parliament as a senator. Now, that being said, I also think that there needs to be some of the more seasoned veterans that do need to come back into the party, but I do not want an influx of the older heads. You need to have some level of those with experience, not only to balance it off, but to try and give some sort of guidance. All right?
Well, I don't know if you, but to take that, your 2 statements there, and to now take it a step further, and maybe this will give a bit more insight to your idea. The political leader moving forward, should it be one of the older experienced people or one of the younger people? Or maybe somebody even new from the outside? Because that will really set the tone for what it is we're looking at.
There are those who have only recently entered the political field, but have already made a great impression and have shown excellent leadership skills and qualities. I'm of the opinion that it does not make sense asking for the executive to meet and this debate being put forward, and Ramona Ramia, Larry Lawler, and Ford Khan are those who are signing it. I do not think that makes sense if it is that you are suggesting that the post for leadership not be contested.
Yeah.
To me, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I think if you were to remove the opposition leader as well as some of those around her who are more or less controlling the party, I think many of the executive need to go. Many of those executives actually make up elected representatives, and I think the opposition leader needs to go. There needs to be a fresh face within the United National Congress, and there needs to be fresh faces, younger. Now that being said, in 2015 we got fresh faces,
Yeah.
But guess what? That didn't work because why? I think they're only there to serve themselves. I really think they're only there to serve themselves. And they act as though they're serving the people when they tote a party line.
Not just that, to what extent were they picked to be the young people who could be more easily controlled by the establishment, to have less, because they're not necessarily going to challenge. They could be good and qualified individuals in their own right, but they have given indications and they don't have the personality to be confrontational with internal politics, which is not always bad. You don't necessarily want dissent and turmoil, but at the same time, you don't want a yes man or a yes woman to more, you do whatever you want and I'll back you up. You're doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to say nothing. We're going over the cliff together.
I do not think that Kamala Prasad-Bisesa is in control of that party. I think the members of the executive, they're the ones who are in control. Those who are in the executive are also have very close affiliations to the opposition.
I'm not too sure if I agree that Kamala isn't.
No, I don't think she's in control. I think there are others in control. But the reason why Kamala has remained there is because they are these individuals who come within government or wanting to be in government as career politicians, as I said, to serve themselves.
Yeah.
So even if as long as the opposition leader is there, even if they remain in opposition, at the end of the day, they're still there. And that is probably their thinking. Listen, we may not be in government, we may not be a minister, but we're still there in parliament.
So what we really need, and I think maybe this is where third parties get it wrong, because the problem is not just the government is this, the government is that. The problem also is that the opposition can't do their job to compete with the government, so that, hey, if you're not on your P's and Q's, we will just supersede you and we'll become the government. But that hasn't happened more often than not. The UNC only won the election, twice? Once under Pandey and once under Kamala, is that correct? So a third party should concentrate first on superseding the opposition, right? They're not doing their job, we'll supersede them. That's the first step. Then worry about trying to overtake the ruling party.
We cannot get away from these two parties. As I said,
we don't have the patience.
The PNM remain a strong party, and the PNM, even though, ironic as it may be, I think they're at one of their weakest points, but they're still stronger due to the opposition and where the opposition is at right now.
Yeah.
And that is why I think the PNM seems to be the stronger alternative and the stronger option. You're not going to have a third party coming in and breaking this two-party system anytime soon. And the reason why is because we have not had that level of consistency with a third party
not
here in
patience.
TNT.
Yes, consistency is the right word.
For example, as much as we see one individual who is the political leader of the PEP, very much out and about, very much working and trying to get things done. Where is the actual party? One man is not going to break the entire chain. Now, don't get
Stephen Williams said the same thing.
Don't get me wrong. He is, many things that he's doing, you do see some level of change and you do see some results.
Yeah, but he's acting like an activist and not a political leader.
Precisely, exactly so. The other thing is, where is Michaela Pandey's party? Where did that go to? There was a launch and everybody was talking about it. She was on one-on-one with Kemil and Rukai, if I'm not mistaken. Where is that heading?
I do think that perhaps all of the people on the outside of the two-party system need to consider, not all, but some of them need to consider coming together as opposed to trying to go their own way, because they're diluting the ecosystem.
The COP and the ILP do not exist. The MSJ is, again, a party of activism rather than and you start off as activist.
I don't even know if he's
but I don't know what's the point of if there are any benefits to just being there. But finally, I think one of the bigger questions is there was a lot of flurry when Gary Griffith launched his political party,
and
the NTA. Where has that gone? The NTA probably exists, but where?
Yeah.
Mr.
Garrett seems more concerned about operating his new restaurant than operating his political party. Perhaps he has ADD and we didn't know, and his attention just shifted, unfortunately.
And there is a possibility that you're going to get a call from him after this program.
That is true, and to that, it's c'est la vie. Now, with that said, I'll just say this though, an interesting thing comes up. If Kamala remains, she will be going up against a new PNM candidate. And it's hard to tell right now because we don't know who that person is. Assuming Dr. Rowley retires, if she as the incumbent should have an advantage, if she actually will have an advantage, or if the new person, to some extent being presented as the new fresh face for the new decade, for the new era, whatever, will actually put her at a further disadvantage because one party is potentially, depending on how they frame it, moving forward, while the other one is stuck in the past.
Well, moving forward in one sense.
Potentially.
And as we have to break for news, I will simply ask this question. What has Kamala Persad-Bissessar done in the last 7 years as opposition leader to say that she deserves to be the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago?
Lost 2 elections.
What has she done as opposition leader?
Lost 2 elections. Well, lost 1 election, sorry. The other one she lost as Prime Minister.
She's lost multiple elections.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Sean Michael Small. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Wassa 42-inch pipeline rupture was due to unstable land. 3 men detained in connection with the theft of North Stand beams. Tobago tutor officer to serve second term. And internationally, Peru's president calls for truce after clashes. Now for the details. Public Utilities Minister Marvin Gonzalez says the recent rupture of the 42-inch pipeline in Arima was due to shifting land. He gave an update on the repair works via Senate on Wednesday.
It is as a result of the shifting earth in that area on the riverbank and the movement of the pipeline over a period of time. The investigation would have resulted in the fact that this transmission line was dislodged as a result of the earth movement taking place in the area.
Over 120,000 customers were affected. The minister said there were disruptions in the repair process which may have lengthened the time frame.
During repair works, a masonry rubber wall on the eastern side of the river collapsed onto the work area, further dislodging the 42-inch transmission main. Additional heavy equipment had to be mobilized on site to assist with additional works, with such slope stabilization and removal of reinforced concrete footing to access the main.
3 men have been detained and are expected to be charged in connection to the theft of steel beams at the North Stand Queen's Park, Savannah. Tourism, Culture and the Arts Minister Randall Mitchell says investigations are continuing and the stage will be ready for panorama.
The NCC has advised that the replacement beams have been purchased, fabricated, and the North Stand will be completed on or before the 2nd of February 2023. An internal investigation has commenced, as well as a report has been made to the police, and the police are conducting inquiries.
Tutor Tobago officer Brandon Roberts will serve a 2nd term in office. This comes after he was nominated unopposed. Roberts was officially installed on Wednesday. Internationally, Peru's President Dina Boluarte has called for a national truce after protests that have rocked the country since her predecessor, Pedro Castillo, was ousted on the 7th of December. Following her speech, thousands of people marched in the capital of Lima, demanding she resign. Ms. Boluarte was sworn in after Mr. Castillo was impeached following his failed attempt to dissolve Congress. More than 50 people have died in the subsequent unrest. Well, that's news on the R1 WESN. I'm Sean Michael Small. Thanks for watching.
Sing for your lover, baby, sing for your lover.
But that is not the song.
That is my version for the Valentine's Day promo on WESN.
WESN presents its Valentine's Day promotion, Sing for Your Lover.
Send us a video of the best rendition of your favorite love song for the one you love. All contestants have a chance to win a variety of exciting prizes. Send us your entries to thecontentcapital@gmail.com. All videos will be posted to our social media pages and will be shown on WESN.
Well, okay then. Let me sing for my lover. Let me sing for my lover.
My lover.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN Content Capital. Thank you very much to Sean Michael Small for news on the hour. Thank you, Sean.
Hey guys, I was at 2 places at once. I ran that run. Whew.
Don't steal my joke. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's open up the phone lines now. I'm not stealing
your joke. I am improving your joke.
If you say so, my friend.
Remember, Santa Paws. Folks, let's open up the phone lines. The number should appear on your screens. Please don't wait to call in. Of course, there are a lot of things that you can call in. If you want to talk about how the police responds to crime, whether you like it or you love it, I know that KFC Mandate story might have divided individuals. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about it. I am of 2 minds of it, but ultimately, I think since the community in the area that specifically seem to be happy with the police response, I can't fault them for that, and I will go with that. But there are other stories of the day. Of course, there was a lawsuit that happened about religious discrimination that we haven't gotten into, which, maybe we'll weigh in on that as we wait for calls. But don't wait and then let the calls pile up. Please call in now so that you have your chance and give some time to callers after you, so don't take too long.
Our directors,
mute your television.
Could you kindly just put the numbers on the screen, please? All right. Yeah. So, thank you very much. Okay. So I think
they do have some people who have the numbers memorized.
They actually do,
because they do call before we put the numbers up. Sometimes.
And I think that's rather incredible because I myself don't remember the numbers. The majority of the time.
I know one of them is supposed to be WESN. I just can't remember what the prefix was.
That's terrible of us. We're the ones hosting this show.
I know, right?
And we don't even know the own numbers. Caller on the line with us from Claxton Bay. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we finally decided to have a little topic about the opposition. And it's a good thing because when they keep lashing out on the government, I'm not saying that the government is the opposition and the government of the day. But when they're giving the PNM licks, you understand, and only leaving all the opposition, which is supposed to be playing a real part in trying to support laws and different things and doing nothing. Only just keeping them in opposition, you know, because only not letting them know, well, hey, we seen all your boy, only need to change all your way, only need to shape up or shape out. And that is what they need to do. You understand? Thank you for the thing.
You're welcome.
Well, caller, I have to say, first of all, from very early on in the show, that is the gentleman there that said that Kamala Bissell was unelectable. From almost the jump. That was his, I believe, first opinion on Kamala Bissell. At no point in Talking Points history did we think that the opposition was fine. Did we have any? Now, we've said that the opposition has at times points that gets buried by the avalanche of communication that seems to be random and not very well structured or have any sort of integrated strategy. But the problem is the government does things, and we could assess those things and have opinions of those things. And they do a lot of things because they run the country. The opposition has one job, and we have constantly said that they do the job poorly. So it gets kind of redundant to the point where it seems as though you're just bashing them for the sake of bashing them. But I say it all the time. They have one job: to communicate with us, to be in opposition, to communicate well, to have opinions and give us some suggestions, and they just can't do that one thing. So we don't want to just bash them all the time.
Speaking about that one thing, where are we with the numbers on the screen? You know,
no, I don't know if it'll be on our monitor.
All right. All right. So we're having a bit of difficulty with respect to the numbers. So call in. I wish to give you the numbers. So I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen.
Hold on. Let's
Michael Small is doing some research.
Let's keep going though. Let's not go
on our behalf.
Let's not cut to break.
We're not going to cut to break.
Okay, but I want to ask you something while I do this. I want to ask you something. What did you think about the situation with the imam in prison that was his bed was forcibly shaved multiple times on top of other potential forms of religious persecution? The government, I do believe, admitted that they were not right in how he was treated, but then tried to say, we're not going to pay any damages, monetary compensation. And the appeal, I think I think it was appealed, or it was the second judge in line that heard the case, basically said, no. You can't admit the fault but then don't want to pay. That's not how this works. You have to have some sort of remuneration as a consequence of your actions, and gave the award of $200,000. We have Diego Martin on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, I think the two leaders really should step aside. And, but that's just a suggestion in futility. There is no way both of them are going to be removed from that position unless they decide to leave. And people have to accept that. You can see by the votes alone when you have internal elections, and you will know that. But that doesn't change the price of anything. The fact is that it needs to be changed for any party to go forward, and the country to have confidence in a party. But, as the saying goes, and then these people who are calling for that as well, they are people that lost many times when they go up against her. So it's something in futurity. But the UNC needs a shake-up. It needs some people to come forward with some good ideas and suggestions so that the party can run properly. Yeah, people opposing for opposing's sake and saying things out of context and all of this. And the PNM, with the experience that they have, will always walk over them.
Yeah.
So I think that they've got to come to some agreement somewhere down the line. But Kamala won't go anywhere unless she decides to leave herself. So that's how that will be. Let's hope for the best and expect yours.
Possibly.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day and enjoy your morning.
And to you too, caller. Thank you very much for your contribution. 623-9376. That's 623-9376 or 628-4578. So I'll call all those numbers for you one more time. If our directors are listening, you can write this down and hopefully put this up on the screen. 623 9376. That's 623-WESN or 628-4578. 628-4578. Call us and join us on the program this morning. There are a couple points with respect to that. I think that with respect to the Imam, there's no place for religious discrimination here in Trinidad and Tobago whatsoever. We are a beautiful island. We're a melting pot. And that being said, though, a couple of things. One, prisoners should be treated as prisoners, and prisoners should be treated equally. My biggest question, honestly, out of this is $200,000 could have gone to a better cause. Though law enforcement needs to be ironed out,
yes.
but
that's the fault of the people who did it, not the fault of the Imam or the judge.
No, fair enough. But and it should come out of their pockets. But let me take this call and raise my final point. Good morning, caller.
Caller from Mayaro. Good morning.
Morning.
Maruga. Good morning.
Yeah, I listened to the conversation whole morning with all the stations. And the UNC have a fundamental problem, and probably is not really the fault so much. But I remember the days when Trinidad had 50% African, 40%, 49% Indian, and 1% other. And when it reached to the demographics now, the other day I heard they quoting 30% Indian. African must be around that too.
I don't know if it's that low, but
then the mix gets so big, and the problem with the UNC is from the time you hear your mix, they throw you on the other side. So they putting out people from supporting them because of the mixture. So the UNC will be in problem all the time unless they embrace everybody and figure, well, you are one and we. They don't do that. They just push you out and you go on the next side because you mix. So I think that it has much hope for the UNC. Then also, since I know the UNC, it was the DLP, the renting place. They never find it to have a headquarters where you could say, hey, they from this place and that place. So they like a man grow up here, build a house, he renting, and every Monday morning so you're not seeing the kind of stability in the party that should be displayed. They every year they will say they're building a headquarters. But 60 years gone now, no headquarters. And every leader is the same thing.
I hear you.
Thank you, Paula. That's some good points there, especially first one.
That second point, I actually wonder how much it has to do with actually the relationship between the party and the people. But your first point, whilst I cannot confirm the accuracy of that.
It's an interesting point.
It's an interesting point, and I won't deny it. But need I say, it goes for both political parties and all political parties.
Let's take the caller from San Fernando first, and I'll then respond.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
You know, after the big Tuesday announcement and yesterday our celebration, I hope that the can, which is even bigger now, the can of diversification of the economy, don't get kicked down the road even further.
Yeah.
It's going to be.
Yeah, yes, it probably will be.
That is my biggest worry with this announcement, you know. Even though, as I said yesterday, I applaud the work and the effort, we still need to diversify because this thing can switch on a dime, you know.
It's an opportunity, caller, to utilize some of the revenue earned to invest in diversification. Put it that way. Whether or not that will be done?
I do. My thing is, while they may get caught up in getting this project on stream, and diversification takes a back seat.
Yes.
Until then, it needs to start now.
Yes.
We need to start to get a bigger push into diversification because remember what happened when Obama was there and he. For instance, just an example. He some of the restrictions on Cuba, and as Donald Trump came in, he changed everything.
Yes.
And he's going back up. It seems as if he wants to go back up for the next election, which is just 2 years away.
Yeah, he shouldn't. But
and this
anyway.
can switch on a dime if he gets back there.
Exactly, caller. A very good
hope,
point.
I hope
and I thought the same thing, by the way.
Put some more effort into this diversification of our economy,
Okay.
not just hedging our bet on this dragon feed.
Thank you, caller. We have another caller straight in from Mayaro. Good morning, caller.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's a great day, a good day, and a blessed day to have a good day.
Excellent.
And let me just say this to you, Mr. Keaton and Sean. Keaton, you know, Sean does make jokes on himself and laugh full-heartedly. That is what Sean does do. But let me just get to the point.
I'm waiting
Kamala, Miss Kamala, he says that Assad has her time. And Sean, you were quite right, because leadership has taken transformation where integrity, knowledge, and application of politics needs to reform itself. The youths, we have a good among the young people who is very intelligent, and Franklin can talk about that. Franklin can, before he passed away, he said, in the Ministry of Energy, we belittle the young people, and though we really push their potential to go forward, enough. So yes, there is a debate of who go and who stay. But let me go down to the farmers and the food chain, Mr. Keaton. I asked you some questions around following the investigation with farmers with NAMGEFCO, and we need help because now the weather is drying up, and we can move forward. But I'm a farmer struggling. I can't move forward because I lost crop 3 or 4 times with the weather, and I don't have nothing to move forward. It's either I sell out and done with that, or I get support. So could you please look into this matter and help the food chain of agriculture, please? Thank you.
We'll do our best, caller. Thank you very much for that point, though. Very much received. A couple of things. Before that, let me just call the numbers one more time. 628-4578. That's 628-4578 or 623-9376. 623-9376. The caller from San Fernando, a very good point with respect to the licenses and Donald Trump, because it is exactly the reason why I thought that we were only issued a 2-year license rather than a 10-year license, because the US elections are to be held in 2 years' time. And if Donald Trump is re-elected, there is a possibility that, as he did when he was in his first term, he reversed the embargo and the restrictions that were lifted by Barack Obama on Cuba. There's a possibility that he will do the same. He was the one that said any company doing business with Venezuela will be banned.
Well, it could be that it also depends on A, what his advisor will say now in the current circumstances, and B, if he would listen to those advisors. You know, so, because I'm not of the opinion, most of his ideas are not originally his.
I just want to quickly go back to the point that you raised with respect to this. Again, law enforcement needs to sort themselves out. That $200,000 could have gone elsewhere, and it probably should have come out of their pockets.
Yes.
There's no place for religious discrimination, but
and it was said that they told the gentleman they know what the policy is, but they're going to shave his beard anyway. That's what was reported.
Hear me out here. Hear me out here.
Quick, we have a call.
What was an imam doing in prison in the first place?
That's a good question. Well, we don't know. But to be fair, we don't know why. We don't know what he was charged
And that is what I'm asking.
We don't know.
That is what I'm asking. Good morning, caller from Petit Valley.
Let me see.
Good morning, Sean and Keaton.
Morning.
Let me tell you what I think the UNC problem is and their leadership. Their take debates are just opposing for opposing's sake.
Yes.
For example, something like crime, when they get in Parliament and they could agree with certain thing on crime, like if somebody get hold with a gun 25 years, they could agree to that. They could agree if the COVID, when was the COVID, the vaccination, then they could agree with the dragon deal. It are things where something is good. You know, you're going to agree with it. But what happened, they get in the trap of just opposing for opposing sake. I think is the UNC problem. Have a nice day, guys.
Thank you very much, caller. I think
it's true. That is very true. Cannot fault that thought at all.
That is actually a symptom.
Yes.
I think that is a symptom.
No, but,
there is
but,
a very
but,
good point.
But unfortunately, as much as it's a symptom, if that's what you're doing, your value to us very much is diminished.
I think it is a symptom because of the quality and character of the individuals who hold positions on behalf of the opposition. Rather poor and pathetic. And this is the thing. I do not see how it's going to benefit TNT. Even if there's a change of face and party, it doesn't mean that there's a change in the individuals who are operating government in terms of their quality and their character. And that is the thing. Governments are voted out, governments are not voted in. But it's the lesser of two evils, and I would say that at this point in time, I am not satisfied nor happy with either option at the table. What does that mean? I think it is the prime time for a third party to evolve. But then and again, as mentioned previously, third party parties in Trinidad and Tobago are not consistent, and they do not hit the nails on their head. They just form themselves for whatever reason, and then they just simply die a natural death.
Yeah, the COP was the one that lasted the longest, but that in some ways is the worst, because I believe...
But the COP would not have survived without the partnership.
No, they could have survived without the partnership. One could argue that the partnership and then how they handled their participation in the partnership and allowed the partnership to supersede them caused the the very quick decline after that one administrative term of the COP.
So then perhaps this COP's demise, as you're suggesting, may have been actually, the mistake they made was joining the partnership? Was there benefit to the COP joining the partnership?
Yes,
beyond...
if it was handled correctly, but they did not handle it correctly because they did not take the long view, they took the short-sighted approach. Now, a couple of things I want to address. First of all, with regards to racial discrimination, I do suspect that the PNM in some areas might be more welcoming of the various mixed ethnicities and so forth than UNC. Maybe. I am going off of what the caller said with regards to the UNC, so I don't have any actual direct opinion with regards to if they accept or not mixed ethnicities. But I could see where the PNM in some parts of it might and some parts of it might not, as you were pointing out. I do think it's interesting though, because there might be the election results suggest that there might be some kernel of truth there. This might be one more reason why the PNM could kind of sit comfortable. Because the Democrats in these states also thought, well, hey, the demographics of elections will eventually just shift into our favor and it won't really matter. That is not necessarily proving to be the case, as minorities are not just voting for them for the sake of voting for them. But in TNT now, we have a similar mindset where Afro-Trinidadians are supposed to vote for PNM and Indo-Trinidadians are supposed to vote for UNC. But if those demographics change, because we know that they're holding firm to that sort of divisive culture, you know, the politics of the day. It might not even necessarily be the parties themselves, but the membership seems to be to some extent. But the demographics of the country is changing, right? So then now that philosophy eventually is going to be obsolete, whether we want it to be or not, whether we like it or not, it doesn't matter. That change is happening without our direct input or control. The other thing with regards to diversification, I think the government will be looking at energy and petrochemical diversification, which is some diversification. It might not be what we want to see.
It's still diversification within the...
Well, within that same sector. The key is, though, depending, we might still be vulnerable to some of the issues.
We can't rely on non-renewables.
Right?
Even diversification
now,
within that sector is...
To be fair, though, at some point, we do have to really look at it because we have to worry about our future energy generation. But I get it. Food security. President Irfan Ali, I said it before, I said it again. At the energy conference, he also highlighted, I believe, food security. It's not something that we could just put on the back burner again and expect we will import food. Because if something happens to America's food supply, they're going to feed themselves before they feed us. And then...
Go ahead, sorry, finish your point.
The last thing is, one of the last callers said Kamala had her time. And it was something that I forgot to mention I want to make. At least in sports, you know, we know this with regards to coaches. At some point, it's just time to move on because your leadership is no longer working within the organization. It's not that you're a bad leader. It's not that you don't have to be someone stuck in your ways from a bygone era, although that could play a part in it too. And it could be that you move on to something else and your leadership skills flourish. Now, obviously in politics, there is not another team and you move on to the next team and then you win the championship. That's not how it works, right? But there is that reality that, look, at some point, your message, your communication style, your philosophy and ideology, the way you operate, the way how people perceive you, it just kind of builds up and it's time to move on because you're no longer effective. It's not that you're bad, it's just a fact of how time progresses and these things work. And I think in the case, Dr. Rowley says that he's looking to retire. He should before that happens. Kamala Persas-Bissessar, I think we could argue that is happening, and she should also consider leaving.
The next 3 years, well, the next 2 years actually is an opportunity for the United National Congress to actually rebuild themselves and their status in society. With that being said, Paul Keynes Douglas said it best, I suppose, utilizing Sean's analogy with respect to sport and sporting figures. If more politicians played fet matches, they will know when it's time to out themselves. Simple. As funny as it may be, there is a messaging behind that, which I do accept and I do agree with.
I miss one of the institutions, comedy and calypso.
I really
comedy and calypso for social commentary.
Social commentary in calypso has become more so, and by the way, it was always used as a social commentary. It was always used as a form of messaging. But there always was a sense of humor behind it, and
which helps drive the point home that
we've lost that finesse. My final point, my concluding point on this entire conversation with respect to race, I find it disheartening, disgusting, very much a step backwards that in 2023 we still have to talk about this, and we still are dealing with this situation. And that goes to show that after 60 years of independence, the progress that we've made as a society, maybe the fact that we have skyscrapers and tall buildings, some of which the infrastructure we can't maintain, but we as a people, though we've come a long way, that long way was only 5 steps. We keep walking backwards.
I will hearken back to the words of one survivor from a brutal situation that is a lesson for all of us. Come all year, we have to go. All are we in this together.
And I always utilize actually the quote of the late Stalin. We can make it if we try just a little harder. And I think, you know what, tomorrow's Friday, we'll play that song for you on this station. We'll work on that. But Sean, as they call it, the farmer from Yara said, you can make a joke and laugh at yourself because he's a good sport. He's a good sport, and I give him credit for that. If he throws a joke at me, trust me, I'm laughing at the inside. I can't laugh in front of him because if I laugh in front of Sean, he's going to continue it all day. So we're limiting. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Sean, thank you very much for News on the Hour this morning, for your presence and contribution, and thank you very much to all our callers, directors. Thank you very much to everybody who makes the show possible. I will just close the show by simply saying today is a good day to have a good day. You can make it if you want it. Put your mind to it and get it done. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
WESN. Meet me in the Baraka. Make sure you get tickets early, got them tickets selling already. We have icons, yes, we have legends, and the young upcoming sensations. Become party, social commentary. We have something for everybody. Pressure for them, joker, faker, and lows. Come to Kaiso House.
Kaiso House in the Barricade, Queen's Park, Savannah, January 27th to February 17th, 2023. Tickets available at
Kaiso House in the Savannah, Crosby's Music Center, St. James, Camway Restaurant, San Fernando, Ulster Complex, Grand Bazaar, and Tuco Main Office, Trinningham Avenue, Belmont. Meet me in the Barricade.
Ping pong 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 pong. It's Naila.
Viking ding dong.
Down.
Pretty, yeah. All I need is a good time. All I need is my friends by my side. No stress is as day and night. No fight is only good fight. So tell them take the time because we going right down. I see the rum can't waste our fun.
Sing for your lover, baby, sing for your lover.
But that is not the song.
That is my version for the Valentine's Day promo on WESN.
WESN presents its Valentine's Day promotion, Sing for Your Lover.
Send us a video of the best rendition of your favorite love song for the one you love. All contestants have a chance to win a variety of exciting prizes. Send us your entries to thecontentcapital@gmail.com. All videos will be posted to our social media pages and will be shown on WESN.
Well, okay then. Let me sing for my lover. Let me sing for my lover.
Me lover.
I am Rondell Donowa, and you are watching WESN, the Content Capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital.
I'm Andre L. Batiste, and you're watching WESN, the Content Capital.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
I'm Andy Johnson, and you're watching WESN, the Content Capital.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered.
The conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN, Content Capital.
I'm Sean Michael Small, and we are WESN, the Content Capital.
Living in victory every day.
Inspire, motivate, encourage, hope. It's about topical issues. It's about everything that you would want to know about hope, about life. At the end, you're going to say, yes, if he can do it, I can do it too. If she can, I can do it too.
No matter what they say, living in victory every day.
Nicole Lawson Live, living in victory every day. Every Sunday at 8 p.m. and Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. on WESN.
I am Mahi Sekas, and you are watching WESN, the Content Capital.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered.
The conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN, Content Capital.
Young at heart, purpose-driven, patriot even. When you like to party, but are still passionate about discussing important issues, the only place where your needs will be met is WESN, Content Capital.
AM Prime on WESN, the only place from 6 to 7:30 a.m. where you can get the most analytical and thorough interviews and regional reports.
The Barbados Labour Party, led by the Prime Minister Mia Amar-Motley, once again able to achieve a clean sweep in yesterday's general election.
I think a lot of people have underestimated the power of Tobago nationalism.
If the government is afraid to say it, I, Martin George, I am saying it this morning on your show, Andy. There will be no carnival before Ash Wednesday.
Grab a cup of coffee and start your day right watching AM Prime with Andy Johnson weekdays from 6 a.m. Only on your Content Capital, WESN.
I am Kemuel Pascal, and we are WESN, Content Capital.
I'm Keaton Shaw, and we are WESN, the Content Capital.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
I'm Andre L. Batiste, and you're watching WESN, the Content Capital.
We are WESN, the premier platform for Caribbean content. WESN, covering West, East, South, and North. WESN, we entertainment, sports, and news. WESN, available on Greendot 7, Amplia 118, Airlink 17, Bmobile 107, Digicel 21, ICNTT 105, and Flow 110. Connect with us at WESNCC or stream online at www.wesncc.com. WESN, your premier platform for Caribbean content.
The perfect mix of news, current affairs, talk, debate, mature discussions, comedy and sports. Only at WESN, the content capital.
In the Jenin refugee camp, and that they said was ordered because of an imminent threat of an attack on Israelis. And that may help us explain why this raid turned out to be so deadly. It was in the middle of the day. There were many people who often, whether they're connected to a militant group or not, will come into the streets and start to, resist or attack some of the soldiers. And the actual place where the militants were hiding out, there were explosives there. They had a lot of arms. And the Israeli army says it ended up firing an anti-tank missile on this building because there was so much firepower coming from it. There was one civilian, an elderly Palestinian woman, who was killed in that group of 9. And the Israelis are also acknowledging that one civilian was in fact killed. They say they're looking into reports of that. On the other side, the Palestinians are calling this a massacre, which I think is extreme language, which doesn't really fit the situation. And the reports that the soldiers went into the hospital, as you said, are being denied by the Israelis. They say it's possible some tear gas wafted into that children's ward, but certainly the hospital was not targeted.
Jordana Miller reporting for us there. Next to Beirut, Lebanon, where protests are being held today to demand justice following the 2020 port explosion that killed 215 people and injured thousands more. The protesters are gathering to support the judge, Tariq Bitar, who has been investigating what happened. This week, he charged several powerful Lebanese individuals in the case, including the country's prosecutor general. In response, the prosecutor general charged Bitar himself with insubordination. Now, families of the victims accuse members of Lebanon's ruling elite of protecting themselves at the expense of justice. For more, here's our correspondent in Lebanon, Rawad Taha.
So what is happening in Lebanon today is very unprecedented. Lebanon is on the brink of the collapse of the entire judicial system. What we have been seeing today is a massive protest happening in front of the Palace of Justice in Beirut, primarily organized by the families of the victims of the Beirut port blast. And this move is supported by a number of opposition parties and parliament members. What has happened exactly is the Lebanon's top prosecutor, Judge Ghassan Awaidat, has ordered the release of all detainees in the port blast probe yesterday. And he has actually took decisions against the lead investigator on the file, Judge Al-Bitar. He even imposed a travel ban on him. Let's go back in time to see the history of this file. This investigation has been stalled here in 2 months due to political pressure coming from Hezbollah and its ally, Amal movement, who have worked over time to stall the investigation and stop the work in progress of Judge Tariq Al-Bitar. Earlier this week, Judge Tariq Al-Bitar resumed the investigation after finding a loophole within the judicial system, which allowed him to resume. This mainly has been caused by the efforts he found within the judicial system. And to some extent, there has been great pressure coming from Judge Al-Bitar. He has ordered the release of a number of detainees. However, he also prosecuted the top prosecutor, Judge Oidat himself, and this led him to take the decisions that he had taken against Judge Bitar.
Today, police in Spain have raided the home of a man who is alleged to have carried out 2 attacks on churches yesterday, killing a clergyman and seriously injuring a priest. The alleged attacker hasn't been named, but authorities say he's Moroccan and had been slated to be deported. Prosecutors have opened a terror investigation, although the individual hasn't been charged. Facebook's parent company, Meta, has announced it will restore former US President Donald Trump's personal account in the coming weeks, ending a 2-year suspension. The company's Vice President of Global Affairs said the public should be able to hear what politicians are saying, the good, the bad and the ugly. Clémence Waller has this.
It's a big social media comeback for Donald Trump. 2 years after being banned from some of the most influential social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, the parent company Meta has announced it will be restoring the former American president's accounts in the coming weeks. Trump's accounts were suspended following the deadly Capitol Hill riot in January 2021. Donald Trump had used the social network to encourage his supporters and broadcast without evidence accusations of electoral fraud concerning the presidential election of 2020. However, this digital return comes with a strict caveat. According to Meta, guardrails will be put in place to ensure that there are no repeat offenders who violate its rules, regardless of political status.
The public should be able to hear what their politicians are saying, the good, the bad and the ugly, so that they can make informed choices at the ballot box. But that doesn't mean there are no limits to what people can say on our platform. When there is a clear risk of real-world harm, we act.
The decision to ban Trump was an unprecedented and polarizing one. Until then, Meta had never blocked the account of a sitting head of state for violating its content rules. Since then, Donald Trump has created his own network, Truth Social, whose scope, however, is very limited. By regaining access to his millions of followers on Instagram and Facebook, Trump will once again be able to address his American voters. Social media platforms are key vehicles for political outreach and fundraising. This is an essential communication channel for the man who wants to run again in 2024.
Now, as India celebrates its Republic Day this Thursday, opposition figure Rahul Gandhi is up north in Kashmir, completing the last leg of his march across the country. He's aiming to put his party, the Indian National Congress, back on the political map after a string of scandals and defeats. But many say one of the party's problems is its failure to cut the cord with the Gandhi dynasty, to which Rahul Gandhi himself is the heir. Our correspondent Navadita Kumari joins Rahul Gandhi's march today for our Focus Report.
Despite the chilling cold and pollution, these people continue their march, praising their hero. 52-year-old Rahul Gandhi, heir to India's most popular political dynasty, ruling the country for decades. He sports a distinctive beard and a white t-shirt. Since September, he's been walking across the country, hoping to complete 3,600 kilometers in just 5 months. Along with his supporters, he sets off at 6 a.m. every day. Wherever he goes, villagers line up just for a glimpse.
We've been waiting here since this morning. We haven't had anything to eat or drink since then. All we wished for was to see him once. It was so amazing to finally see him.
Unemployment is skyrocketing. Businesses are not in a good shape. The country itself is crumbling. That's why our youth are leaving the country. Through this Bharat Jodo Yatra, Rahul Gandhi is sending a message of unity and hope. We must vote for Congress to save the country.
Gandhi launched the Bharat Jodo Yatra, India Unity March in Hindi, with the aim of renewing his connection with the masses. On target are his main opponents, the Hindu nationalist Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his far-right party, the BJP. Ruling the country since 2014, they're accused of dividing the country on religious grounds and enacting discriminatory policies towards minorities.
This yatra is against those who are suppressing the voices of dissent in India and spreading fear in the country. They are dividing the nation, creating fights between the castes and between different religions. My yatra is against all these.
With this roadshow, Rahul Gandhi also intends to create a new image for himself, that of a credible politician capable of leading the people. During 2014 and 2019 national elections, he led the Congress party's political campaign, succeeding his mother Sonia Gandhi. Those two elections turned out to be the Congress party's biggest defeats in its history. For 10 years now, they have been in opposition, but the party is yet to give up hope. At the end of each day, Gandhi's followers since day one of the march rest in one of these 60 trucks converted into dormitories. They all have one goal in mind, the next elections in 2024.
Every day I receive calls from different parts of the country of Congress workers who want to join in the yatra, who say, how can I join? Please tell me how can I join? So the Congress worker has really stood up. That's one of the biggest achievements of this yatra for the Congress party. Secondly, the image of our leader Rahul Gandhi has, gone really, really high. He used to say the same things earlier, but now probably people started looking at him with more seriousness.
But in recent years, many party workers have left the Congress to join the opposite camp. In New Delhi, J.V. Shergill is amongst the latest turncoats. After more than 9 years in the Congress, he quit to join the BJP in December as a spokesperson.
This is an interesting photograph. We have a few friends, majority of them have left Congress and joined the Bharatiya Janata Party. Mr. Jyotiraditya Scindia, he's the Minister for Civil Aviation of India. I am not ashamed of my past. When I look at these pictures, I feel sad, but because Indian National Congress, being the world's one of the oldest political party, has gone array, has lost vision, has lost direction.
For him, the Congress is a dynasty-driven party that's run by an inner clique.
The top leadership is now immune to criticism. Rather, they are averse to suggestions for reform. There is a sinister strategy within the Indian National Congress to ensure that a permanent lock is put on the Congress headquarters.
A very centralized party, and one that cannot shake off scandals from the past, particularly from its last mandate between 2009 and 2014. For this political analyst, the Congress will have to propose a strong election manifesto to win back its past voters.
They have to go back to the people and they have to go back with a program. And it is here that BJP is very, very different from the Congress. BJP also has a very centralized way of, running the party and the government, but still they keep a lot of connect with their ground cadres, with the people. And if you see all their policies, so all their policies caters to different types of, caste communities and all. So they look into their problems, they try to address them, they try to get social welfare for them. And apart from that, the whole Hindutva agenda, like reviving the Hinduism in this. So this has given, BJP a huge advantage as concerned with Congress.
Before the 2024 general elections, 9 Indian states are going to the polls later this year. This will be a major test for the Congress if it wants to remain a political player at the national level.
Well, that report from India brings us to the end of this hour of Life in Paris. Thanks very much for watching. And do stay with us. The world news resumes shortly here on France 24.
World Views. France 24 brings you all the news from hotspots around the world. In France, Asia, the Middle East, the Americas, and Africa. From Europe to Oceania, take a daily trip across borders to keep abreast of all the latest international news. Get exclusive updates from our correspondents around the globe. Our daily reports will take you to all 4 corners of the world. Every day, watch World Views on France 24 and France24.com.
Want to know
Find out here.
With France 24, learn to tell what's true from what's fake on social networks.
Identify the false rumors in European news stories.
Get reliable information about migration.
Truth or fake, every day we bring you information that is verified and put into context.
France 24 is news you can rely on every day across all platforms.
On France 24, watch exclusive interviews with the world's most influential personalities.
We need to act together because we're protecting our freedom.
Encounters with key political leaders.
L'inquiétude, elle est extrême.
Leading figures from the worlds of culture, sport and science.
La science, la recherche, la découverte, le progrès, c'est important, c'est pas des mots qui sont vides.
Whatever you think is right, you can do.
Watch The Interview, a meeting of ideas on France 24 and France24.com. Liberté, égalité, actualité.
France is the #1 tourist destination in the world, and it has been for decades.
Year after year, France has been beating its own record. In 2019, nearly 90 million people visited the country.
The aim was to have 100 million tourists in 2020, but then the pandemic happened. After a rough couple of years, though, the tourism industry is back on track.
In this episode of French Connections Plus, we take a snapshot of France's thriving tourism industry.
French Connections Plus, presented by Jeannie Godula and Florence Villemino.
WESN.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Sean Michael Small. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Wassa 42-inch pipeline rupture was due to unstable land. 3 men detained in connection with the theft of North Stand beams. Tobago tutor officer to serve second term. And internationally, Peru's president calls for truce after clashes. Now for the details.